And thank you everyone. Thank you esteemed guests for coming here at the launch of Thrive, and thank you everyone for joining us on this very special occasion. I would like to use this address to just to explain my motivation and inspiration behind this organization, and a bit about what this organization would like to do. So, first of all, I have two disclaimers to make. The first disclaimer is that I owe my life to patriarchy. So, born in a Bihar of 1980s and having five elder sisters, so it's anybody's guess why I was born. So, and yet I stand here trying my little effort to dismantle the same patriarchy. So, in a way, I'm thankful to my parents for, despite being a product of their own times and society, and yet ensuring that we all get equal opportunities and we all get nourished with critical thinking. The second disclaimer I would like to make is that I am not a gender expert. I come from a background of engineering and management, so pardon me for any mistake I say or anything improper I say or do. So, but whatever I do and speak is based on my own observational lens through which I view the society and try to understand and analyze how societies function. So a day before yesterday, when we were sitting for a dry run, Anupriya, I think, asked me that what is your motivation behind Thrive? And to be honest, I did not write anything about it till then. And then I impromptu said, I think it is my own personal small act of rebellion against the stupidity I see around me. And though politically incorrect statement to make, but Anupriya and Shivangi and Pawan and everyone suggested me that I should say this while introducing Thrive as well. So, what are those stupidities I am talking about? A friend who is professionally acclaimed, but her father is not talking to her because she is not getting married. A relative who works with the armed forces, but her father said that I don't know what kind of a job she has joined, that she is not manageable enough. Another friend who has cracked GMAT and has got admitted into one of the top B schools of the world, she did not join MBA because her parents think that it's a time to get married and marriage is more important than education after all. So these are the small stupidities which I see around me, and these also became the inspiration for Thrive. Is Thrive mine? No. It's a home being put up by me where expertise meets opportunity, data meets stories, and ideas meet action. It is going to be a space in which researchers and change makers find their home, in which they find their working workstations, their reading nooks, and their coffee corners. Thrive is born from the belief that equity is not a charity. It is not anything which is like extended as a charity or a favor done to anyone. Equity is a very selfish act made for our own progress. And if we are not making that act, it is to harm ourselves only. And it is not merely a belief, like the sun revolves around the earth used to be a belief, but data and research also suggest the same. The World Bank Gender Employment Gap Index indicates that on average across countries, long run GDP per capita would be almost 20% higher if all gender employment gaps were to be closed. According to the World Economic Forum, a 10 percentage point increase in women's share in parliament is associated with a 0.7% higher GDP growth. According to a Cardiff University study, a 10% increase in female representation in company boards was associated with a 7% increase in innovation, patents, and citations. Thus, equity is not about giving, it is about growing. So today, Thrive stands on the shoulders of feminist icons, feminist writers, researchers, painters, artists who have worked hard to ensure that despite all challenges, we keep moving ahead. From Virginia Woolf's demand for a room for herself, to Savitribai Phule's call for go-get education, and to Frida Kahlo's canvas of feminist resistance and self-liberation. The work of these feminist giants have always reminded us that equality and equity is never granted, it is constructed. Feminism has always been about agency and not revenge. Feminism is not a goal, it is a process, it is a lens to see the world with and to act. It is about power with, not power over. It is not only about finding answers, but also about asking questions, asking the right questions and asking more questions. And questions we seek to ask. There are so many questions as organization, as individuals we should ask. Say, for example, why are we obsessed with the idea of our women cooking in our homes, and yet most professional chefs used to be men? Why do we worship goddess for strength, wisdom, and wealth, and then tell our daughters to be coy in their day-to-day life? Why do we say behind every successful man is a woman instead of asking why she is behind it? So Thrive does not only stand on the shoulders of these feminist icons, but Thrive stands on the shoulders of women around me who have inspired me to make this organization and contributed to the entire event and the soul of this organization. From Dr. Archana, with whom I first bumped up this bumper of this idea to Shan, my therapist, who I owe this name to, because she made me realize how, because I came from a pretty privileged upbringing, so she made me realize that I had a privileged upbringing. I always thought that that was normal. So when I realized that I had a privileged upbringing, and also I realized that more and more people needs to have those kind of upbringing to be able for them to thrive. To Shalini, who's not here with us today, she's an assistant professor in Meerut. Despite health challenges in her family, she spent hours with me ideating on this. To Anupriya, who's holding the stage so brilliantly today, and she also brought the inspiration behind our logo. We spent like 2-3 days cramming up what should be the symbolism around our logo. And we did not have a logo till yesterday evening. And when we sat, we were just doing a drive, and Anupriya said, "Why don't you play around with equal symbol?" And that was it. We had our logo. To Shivangi, who I requested for some musical performance at the event to give a musical touch, and she came back by composing a song for the organization, which I did not even request her to. To Tanya, who wrote the research report which we are going to release. She is based in Goa, and she was supposed to come, but she could not travel. And when I received the report last night, a soft copy, when I had a second look, I saw that her name was not on the cover. So supposedly she thought that she is doing a research for a think tank, so the think tank logo should only be there. So to her also, and to the women in my family and friends, who I always, in this entire journey, I always relied upon for their good counsel. So this event and this organization is a small example of how we can benefit if we open ourselves to be led by women. So let's ground ourselves in reality. According to World Economic Forum's 2024 Gender Gap Report, India ranks 129 out of 146. Our female labor participation is below 30%. Only 14% of our parliamentarians are women. Yet, women contribute over 60% of unpaid household labor, adding invisible billions to India's GDP every single day. Thrive aims to investigate such blind spots, identify challenges, and recommend suggestions for driving change. Thrive exists not just to collect data, but to identify the stories behind that data. Because behind every statistic, every number, there is a woman negotiating her dreams. We don't want to just break glass ceilings anymore. We want to redesign the entire building plan. We do not want to climb up the stairs. We also need to make the stairs more comfortable for people climbing before us, climbing after us. So the question is not about how many seats are occupied at the table. Of course, now we have the numbers in boardrooms and otherwise. The question is who owns the table, who gets to speak, and who gets interrupted mid sentence. We do not want to just raise our voice, we want to change the echo. As Virginia Woolf said, a woman needs money and a room of her own to write. And here at thriWe, we are trying to build that room for thinking, for writing, and for disrupting. thriWe happens, and many such institutions happen, and all of them are doing good work. So thriWe happens when institution meets feminism. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the guidance of our CBS.